Welcome, everyone. You are here with Mind Power Meets Mystic. I am Michelle Walters. I am your Mind Power, and I'm joined by my podcast co-host, Cynthia Varkevisser. She is the show's mystic. We have a very special guest today, Becky Plautz. Becky is inspiring, full of love, and all about empowerment. Becky has been using her superpowers, including holding space, creating connection, and celebrating others' growth for over 10 years as a micropreneur in various ways. Becky is an international empowerment photographer and public speaker, focusing on shifting perspective by staying connected to yourself. Becky speaks with love and compassion about the fears you have with being fully seen as who you are. She highlights thought leaders and personal and professional growth experience with both her camera and focused attention on supporting you in fully living the life of your dreams. Becky, we're so happy to have you here today.
Hey, Michelle. Hey, Cynthia. Thank you so much for having me. Excited to be here.
Yeah, I am so inspired to talk with you because I love these words in your bio: micropreneur, international empowerment photographer, and then public speaker. Can you talk a little bit about micropreneur and which one do you like more? I'm not saying that it's 50-50 and maybe some days are more than others, but tell me, where is your passion out of the two?
Yeah. So I've been doing photography for 13 years. It has been my passion to document, capture moments since I was a kid when I had a crank disposable camera and I would go get that baby developed at my grocery store downtown. And speaking has really been a growth journey for me to really step out, really be uncomfortable with big words or not fully, knowing what I wanted to say and just really gaining ground for myself to be confident in trusting that, I'm going to say what's needed to be said and it's going to be received by who is ready to receive it. So I've created a duality with speaking and with photography and really holding space for other thought leaders to share more about what they have going on and how I support them in that. But photography is always what I want to do most because first and foremost an in-person person. So love that we can be virtual, love that we can have conversations from anywhere around the world at the drop of a button. And first and foremost, I always want to be able to hug you. So photography has to be the first love because I can get in person with people for that.
I love that. And I think that makes so much sense because you strike me as somebody who wants to be with people and where that's really what is feeding your soul. And it's wonderful now that, we can share digital images, like they can go all over the globe instantly, which I guess is wonderful and terrifying all at the same time. But there is something really powerful about being in the presence of others. And so many of us, I think, have lost a little bit of touch with that since we had to hole up for a couple of years. But I got to remember those days are passing and it's getting better and better to get to spend time with people. I wanted to hear a little bit more about, we can talk more about your photography too, but I want to talk a little bit about the speaker journey for you and what that was like, because you weren't always a public speaker. Is that fair to say?
That's very accurate. I I was not a public speaker. I would never have identified as a speaker. Let's see, 2018. I can look at this reminder. I had a friend that created a coaster with my first speaking opportunity where I spoke to a room of 20 women, and it's on a coaster, and she even has the date on the back of when I did it in 2018. And I cried for 20 minutes of this debut as a speaker from the sheer energy that I was feeling and the excitement and the real draw to know that even one person hearing one thing that could impact them is what it's about for me. and getting out of my own way of thinking, I'm going to sound stupid. I'm not going to do this right. I was making it about myself when the reality is that we do these things because we're here to impact other people. And when we share our stories or be vulnerable enough to, become a story, then we are inspiring other people to do the same. And so, 2018, I did this speaking opportunity. And actually, I love to do things big. So, and give myself extra accountability to follow through with something that I know might be uncomfortable. So, you know what I did? 2018, on the same day that I had this, I launched a video podcast series where I would interview leaders about a significant time in their life when fear would hold them back from living their life fully, and how that life experience has helped shape the leader that they are today. Because that's how I know to support myself best, to grow and really push myself to know that fear can be my friend and discomfort is good, is that I double up on things sometimes like that.
That's pretty ballsy. I mean, I'm not going to, there's no way to sugarcoat that. You're not joking about that. Go big. And
Yeah.
Can you go back? Let's go back just a little bit. So we know that you
Yeah.
dared yourself and that you were very brave to do this thing in November of 2018. Set it up, because what you did is that you set yourself up for this. So we got to hear about the crying, but and and that you doubled it up and you did a twofer on the same day. So when did you set up this, let's do a podcast? And when did you say, all right, fuck it, I'm going to do this speaking engagement and just move forward?
Yeah, so it worked out really well. My success strategist, my coach that I was working with, it was the one that was putting on the conference. So she knew she wanted me to be out as a speaker. She knew she wanted to support this video podcast that I was developing. And that we were like, well, what if we supported you by doing it? So it was a suggestion. I was like, oh yeah, way to put me just like in it. And she knew me well enough to know, like, that's kind of the way I do things. I'm always known as the, kind of too much. I have a lot of energy. I really want to do things in a memorable way, right? Like I'm all about meaning. And what's better than, really giving yourself something to be scared about, to give yourself a little bit extra excitement is the way that I look at it. And to just know, like, that happens. So, I had a connection, and that she knew both of these things would support me in moving forward. And all I had to do was say yes, right? All I had to do was say yes, because it was already presented to me as this could really support you in getting out of your comfort zone and kind of ripping the Band-Aid off, so to say, and just really putting it out there and to get support. Because when you're launching something and you're being vulnerable, there's connection that's built with the people in the room to know, that you don't have to do it perfect. You can be completely imperfect and take action and inspire along the way of your journey.
I think that's absolutely dead on, Becky. And I think that the other thing that I really liked hearing you say is you're recognizing the value of putting yourself in your uncomfortable zone. Because what a lot of us sort of have to recognize is that growth opportunities come because you are ready to put yourself in that place of discomfort. And, I think we all have a lot of stress. We all have other things going on. But when it comes to personal growth, that happens because of a willingness to be vulnerable, a willingness to be uncomfortable, a risk to see, like, what could happen, And for you, some crying happened, but it was also a momentary, a moment on the expansion of this entire journey. And that's an absolutely fantastic, I think, inspiring story for people to hear. I want to remind all of our listeners that you are here on Mind Power Meets Mystic. It's with me, Michelle Walters, and my co-host, Cynthia Varkevister. Our guest today is Becky Plautz. Please, 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 we would love it if you would subscribe to this podcast and or share it with a friend. Don't you know somebody who also wants to hear about this story of speaking? Share this podcast. It's that simple. So back to Becky. I also want to hear about your photography and how you discovered that photography was such a core love for you, and what you get out of being a photographer.
Yeah, I was wrongfully fired from a retail job, and on paper I was a great employee, but there was really a disconnect with how they wanted me to allow people to treat me, and I wouldn't stand for it. So long story short of that, I left again in tears. Right, another tear story. If you haven't noticed, this is how I process things really well, is I water my growth with my tears. That's really a big thing for me. And just feel that. So I left, feeling defeated and really lost, thinking like, how did this happen? Because I was their top salesperson, so to say, even the day that I was let go. And there, that happened for a reason. The whole thing happened for a reason. I can look back in hindsight to say, I met my husband actually at that job. My best friends still to this day are also from that job. And it was the push that I needed to become an entrepreneur. I left going, I'm going to decide who I want to give my energy to, who I want to work with, all of those things, right? To stay away from the negativity that these members were putting on me at this job in this position that I wouldn't stand for. And, that helped me hone in on the fact that I licked my wounds, honestly, for a couple of months. And then my bonus dad asked me the question as we were sitting on vacation, overlooking the lake. I'm a water girl. And he asked the question of like, okay, well, what would you do if you could do anything? And I was like, take pictures. And at that time, I still didn't even have a digital camera. I just knew that my love for capturing moments, enjoying time with people I love, that was something that, was really inside of me that I enjoyed. And I didn't even, the extent of photography was I had my senior photos taken once. Like that was the extent of photography that I knew at that point as a profession. So I started taking night classes. I started learning about photography, taking any classes I could, got into that 5 years into that journey, just figuring out what I loved specifically. And I found empowerment boudoir to really be a niche that I loved after having a childhood friend ask me to support her in doing a photo shoot. And I was like, let's play, let's have fun. And the transformation and the confidence that I saw rise up had me hooked. And mindset work came over in the next couple years after I've built out this experience to really understand that I can take as beautiful pictures as I want of you. And if you're telling yourself negative, terrible things in your mind, then it won't matter because you're going to see someone very different than who we see in these photos. So pairing mindset work and giving that support leading up to the photo shoot and the experience has been, really this massaging, cultivating act throughout the growth journey of pairing those things together.
I'm curious. Can you tell me a story? Tell us a story where you saw this huge transformation and, and this was the transformation during the session. And this is who this person is today, because I can just feel from you this huge transformation that happens in front of the camera, which is freaking amazing, to be honest.
Yeah, it's really fun. And honestly, that was another piece of it too, is that, doing the mindset work and having them share more about their vulnerabilities, their stories before they get in front of the camera was a huge part of that, so that I could understand more about the impact that the photo shoot makes for them, right? So understanding their story more. And recently I had a client that she went to me a couple years ago before I was doing the mindset sessions, which I call breakthrough sessions. And we did a photo shoot. She loved it. She said she was so nervous about doing it the whole time. I walked her through all of the steps and the whole experience, loved it, bought my largest package, all the bells and whistles, floored about it. And now fast forward 5 years later, she just came last week and she's, lost weight. She has a whole different mindset. She's dating someone. Like there's a whole lot of transitions that have happened over these last years, which I mean, for all of us, but really getting to re-tap into, where were you then? And really getting to have her share, you know, the insecurity, the fear around even having her photo taken and seeing herself. And then now to her saying, I wasn't nervous at all. Like, I'm totally confident. I'm totally ready for this and excited more than fear, right? Before it was that she had fear, and now it was more of self-love, and knowing that she was safe with me, I think, was a huge part of that. And knowing that she had already experienced a big part of what we would do. And now it was that I was going to give her support up in the front end of it. So it just really solidified how much the transition of my business and how I support and serve my clients has evolved and grown in a really beautiful way.
That's really cool. I also know, Becky, that you are a big community gal. Maybe that comes out of the in-person attraction that you have. But why don't you tell us a little bit about how, because I'm guessing you didn't always have a leadership role in communities. How did that part of your, did that happen along with the public speaking? Was that a separate journey? How did that fit in?
Yeah, you hit it on the head with that. It was a part of the whole journey with my speaking came from raising my hand to say yes, or from being picked. I didn't raise my hand, actually. A lot of it was someone saw me and was like, hey, I see you shining and I want to see it, you know, on another level. And they pulled me up and they said, hey, I want you to step in this leadership position. So I took on a leadership role inside of a global women's connection organization for 5 years as a speaker coordinator. This is where this gets really hilarious. As the speaker coordinator. And I was like, okay, I don't know anything about this. And through that process, even the fear of standing up at this in-person meeting, again, with 30 women in it, to read the bio of the speaker that I have ready to go, terrified me, to the point where it was at least 2 months straight that I sat in my seat and allowed someone else on the leadership team to make that announcement. And by the third time, I was so disgusted with myself that I said, don't ever let me do that again. I said, I'm sitting here saying that I would do it and then I wouldn't, and you did it for me. I know you want to support me, and you can support me by telling me to get my ass up there and cry in front of you instead, because that's what needed to happen. So I love punched myself in the end to just say, I can't watch myself sit here anymore. And from that moment, like, I started, you know, gaining confidence. I started letting myself be imperfect and just allowing myself to grow in being a speaker, even when I mess it up. And from then I became, then the video podcast series came after that. And it was like, I'm already talking with people about coming to speak for this organization. Now I can find more people to come and share their story on my video podcast, right? And then just started to massage that. And now I lead that organization as the leader of that group. And I don't understand, that was totally divine intervention that happened. But now I'm in a position to grow as the managing director of that chapter as well. So it happens. And when I'm willing to say yes, and I'm still scared and I'm still unsure, I trust that it's happening for me. And if it's not supposed to be there, then it won't be.
I just love your story. And I love imagining how, I mean, I imagine it like these little steps, you know, like, I don't know, stepping stones that are getting higher or farther apart or something like that. And okay, well, first, yeah, sure, I'll be speaker coordinator. Well, okay, then I'll sit here or get someone else to help me. Okay, then I'll do a little more. Then I'll do a little more. And look at you today. You know,
Yeah.
I think you're a wonderful example of somebody who said, I'm going to do it. And it may not get done instantaneously, but I'm going to accept myself. I'm going to correct myself. I'm going to plow on until you've gotten so far. And I know this is just the beginning.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. And right, I took a couple years off from doing the video podcast, and then I have another organization, right? And I have another business. So I have 2 businesses. I have that role still as the managing director. I now have launched my own podcast as well. After that video podcast series went, so growth continues. And I love that you say the little steps. That's one of the big things that I talk a lot about with my community and my clients is, you know, taking the next step, because I I definitely want to see the whole staircase. and know how far I need to go. And I know that's definitely not the way that my journey has went, and will continue to go step by step. So trusting that each step is what we need is my anthem, I think, Michelle.
I actually think for me, your stories are catalytic, and that you're that type of person where you invite change, and then all this shit happens, and then you pop out, vibrationally different. And I believe that when people are in front of your camera, they're also going through a catalytic moment. And the beauty of it is that you actually get to record it, right? You're recording it as it happens. It's wunderbar. I'd love to know what you got coming up. We're so amazed by you. And I'm sure our listeners would love to see more of you, or now our viewers. So what you got going on, pal?
Well, there is a couple things that are super exciting. Like I said, the breakthrough boudoir sessions that I've been doing, I'm really in this beautiful mode of pairing my podcast, my in-person podcasting. So that's the vision that I've been building out this year, is really getting in person with my people that I interview. And the next step is like having them share their story and let them see themselves, so I can blog about their boudoir experience, and really have that breakthrough session solidified. And I love that you like document it, right? It's all about documenting their growth and their evolution. So I'm always harnessing that and figuring out, I'm working on how to build out a mobile studio where I have podcast station on one side and set up for the photo shoot on the other, to come to you, and make it super easy to build those breakthroughs for my clients. And then I have a virtual opportunity, that I would love to share with the listeners too, which is for my virtual co-work space and community called Work on Purpose with Purpose. Again, this is where I know that everything is happening for us, and that I fully believe that it's all on purpose. So that's called the Living OP Summit. It's our 5-year business birthday coming up on April 14th, which is a Sunday. And that is a virtual invitation to join us for a couple hours and tap into how you're living on purpose and living with your intentional growth, and get some support in a community that, honors authenticity.
I love it. I think it's so important. I would have never imagined back in my corporate days how vital these work groups, accountability groups, community groups really are for so many entrepreneurs, because we're out there, we're trying to get things done, we're trying to do things on our own, and yet without a little bit of friendship and support and that kind of a thing, it's unbelievably hard to imagine getting the momentum you need to be the change makers that we want to be. So thank you so much, Becky, for appearing on Mind Power Meets Mystic. We were very glad to have you today, and I'm sure our listeners will delight in hearing your story. Thank you.